Testing, testing. I did. Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. My youngest. My youngest. Yeah, two boys already married. So anyway, got them all married off. Well, thank you. Oh, well, you got married early. They're young and they're youngsters. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, they have a whole slideshow of we actually had even for that first asked point.
If you're going to be coming up to present tonight, you'll just need to make sure you sign in and write your affiliation, whether you're a homeowner, property owner, and the address. And then if you do come up when we have time for public comment, or you don't have to come up right now. Just when you do come up, if you do, sign in for me, please, and make sure you speak into the microphone because this meeting is live streamed and recorded. Until we start. Good.
I just wanted to show that.
All right, y'all, we need to go ahead and get started. Beth. Yep, thank you. Okay.
You have your statement you usually read. You want me to read that?
I got that.
Our chairman has laryngitis. So
Oh.
turning this over
Pass
to me.
those down. Were you gonna,
Well, it's 6 o'clock and that's the appointed hour for us to do the Somerville Board of Architectural Review meeting. And for those of you who have not been to one of these before, we take the projects in the order in which they are submitted to the town office. And I will now read Phil's preamble. Depending on the size or complexity of the project, each applicant has the opportunity to present a conceptual or master plan for our review prior to committing funds for a full set of design plans and specifications. Approval of a concept means that we might agree with the concept while disagreeing with some of the details. It also means that each phase of the project must be submitted at a later date once plans are more fully developed to obtain the board's final approval for the individual portion of that project. Hopefully, any disagreements will have been worked out before the applicant comes back before the board. We don't have any projects that have been previously presented. And our charge is to look at each project purely on aesthetics, design, architecture, height, mass, and scale, and in harmony with the historic district in the town of Somerville. We look at the overall street scene. Although it's not required to solicit comments from anyone other than the applicant and the board members, except for demolition requests, we usually choose to allow others to express comments that might help influence our decision-making after the applicant has presented the project and the board members have resolved any questions they might have. Because of the number of projects we have to review this evening, we ask that anyone wishing to comment try to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less and to not repeat what someone else has said. As always, we will review each submittal in the order that it was submitted. The first order of business is to codify and approve the minutes of our last meeting, October 4th.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Those in favor? Phil? Aye. Nancy Jean?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I was not there, so I will abstain. Okay, so the first project is submitted by Karen Coleman.
So quickly, just in the staff report, I just detailed that the garage is existing. It received BAR approval. When the previous homeowners owned it, they did not install the garage with the conditions approved by the board. So I have included that certificate of appropriateness here if y'all want to take a look at it, but I'll go ahead and let Karen go over the scope of the project.
Good evening. My husband and I, Mark, are looking to add approximately 965 square feet to the existing structure, which was installed towards the end of 2018. Regardless, knowing that they did not subsequently design the property the way that it was supposed to have been per the details approved by the BAR, we would need to update those things anyway to ensure that it is in design appropriate to our home. We are looking to expand the space about 750 internal square feet and 200 external square feet for a side entertainment porch. The interior space of the garage is for automobiles. My husband is a car collector. And rather than having them placed in the yard, we would like to have them enclosed in space. We will acknowledge that we do have a very important parcel of property in the town, and we want to make sure that we are being respectful. So we're trying to minimize the difference of the unit from the street. So realistically, the only thing that will change is the roof line to a hip style roof. And then along the wall there that has just the singular existing window and then the long expanse of the cementous siding, we are willing to add additional windows, et cetera, so that it does fit more in with the home. So you see there are the doors that were installed that were not following the BAR suggestions or approval, as well as the that final window is inaccurate, as well as the door there.
And I believe the roof was the other.
No, the roof is an appropriate roof. It is the 1 inch.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Mhm.
So here's for the board members, this is the certificate of appropriateness that was delivered to the previous homeowner.
Becca, do you have the plans that were approved?
They were hand drawn. And I think we had a hard copy of them, but they weren't
Okay,
anything done by a draftsperson or to scale. And please let me know if I need to jump around. The
I
different-
guess, could you go back over? I'm still a little confused of exactly what she's asking for.
So there's going to be an addition. So this is the existing. And then here is proposed. And the items we were discussing were that the windows were not simulated divided light. The door was not appropriate, and the garage doors were not carriage style.
Okay, thank you.
so would all three of the garage doors have the same look? They
Yeah.
would be the carriage doors?
So the one that you're looking at on the side elevation there is not actually going to be an overhead garage door. Because of the way the interior space is going to be used potentially with a lift. So an overhead door will not function properly. We're going to do something that looks perhaps more French style or looks carriage with glass.
Okay,
So it will be like a fraternal twin.
do you have an image of that?
Style of door. No, we have not gone quite that far with picking out materials and such, as this is more conceptual approval.
I like your idea of adding some fenestration to that long blank side.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to approve the doors if we don't know what they're going to look like.
But she said it's more conceptual.
Concept.
It is conceptual.
Mhm. The concept is good.
We will definitely be coming back for actual approval.
Any other comments from the board?
Help me understand. Explain, go to the roof line of the existing building. I'm looking at the. Right, so this elevation here is. So what's, how's the roof line changing? I'm trying to.
So between the front elevation where you can currently see the garage doors, that roof line has a clip tip.
Yeah.
And the hip actually runs side to side,
Right.
where now the hip is going to run front to back. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that the peak is at the top.
Right. So you actually, y'all are gonna reframe all that
Yes,
and
Okay.
take the roof. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Big change. Mhm.
Okay. You take vote,
You don't vote on cassette
don't
conceptual.
vote on. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you.
next project is St. John's Catholic Church.
So basically this came before staff for or for a new unit on top of the church. Per the guidelines, I felt it was appropriate to ask for it to be screened along with the other units to be screened. My reasoning behind that was that it would maybe look a little silly to have one screened and not the others. And these lovely applicants appealed that decision to y'all. So I'll go ahead and let you.
Good evening. I'm Luke Morris with Coast Architects. So as Becca was pointing out, we went for staff approval since it's the only exterior change is adding that rooftop unit to makeup air unit for the kitchen hood. And we were originally approaching her to see if we could get away with not having to screen it since it's at the back of the building in a rather inconspicuous space. We felt like the spirit of the zoning requirement for screening was to make it as inconspicuous as possible. So by adding the screening, we felt like it made it more conspicuous. But we do understand that the code requirement is to screen the new unit, and we're completely willing to do that if required by y'all. But what we don't feel is in line with the code requirement or with common practice with screening of mechanical units is to screen the 4 existing units on the rooftop that currently are not screened. We just feel like it would be a hardship to the client. And also making it much more conspicuous, all 4 of those where y'all probably haven't noticed those rooftop units on this existing building for the last 50+ years that it's been there.
How do you screen on the roof?
Yeah. Well, they make panels.
Well, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's expensive. Especially an existing roof would be very difficult.
Yeah, so essentially you're adding like sails to the roof. So high wind events. It becomes structurally really difficult, and then re-roofing around it adds more occasions for potential water intrusion.
So in new construction, we would typically take steel posts and they would come through the roof, and
Mhm.
the roof would be flashed around those steel posts.
Mhm.
They also make a screen that will attach to the mechanical equipment themselves. It's kind of an aftermarket kind of solution. And it kind of looks like maybe some louvers attached around the equipment.
And I actually did bring some renderings. They're printed out, but Becca just recommended that we have something in our back pocket. I can hand them.
Yeah. Mhm.
We can share.
That is, just for a proposed elevation copper screen. Proposed section of the louvers themselves.
And you're adding the unit.
It's a makeup area unit for the kitchen,
Makeup area.
and we're not doing anything with the existing.
And how many
Gotcha.
units are currently on the roof?
There are 4 current units, just normal rooftop air conditioning.
And so when we look at this picture, that's the new unit.
That's the new unit, yeah, and then the other units on the side of the.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
And what's the size?
I don't think it's much.
The new unit, there's a group plan. Sure if it has a dimension. I would say it's probably about It's about 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
So 5.5 feet tall, probably 6 feet with the curb, and then the existing units are about 3 foot by probably 5 foot in plan, and then probably about 4 feet to 4.5 feet tall with the curb.
And so in this case, I'm sorry, tell me your name, you know.
Luke. Luke?
Luke,
Yes.
yes, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So in this case, Luke, what were you envisioning this was made out of, and how are you framing this?
So that would be that cut sheet. It's basically a louvered aluminum louvered pre-finished screen. It could be any color, but we would probably go with something dark to make it more inconspicuous or as inconspicuous as you can. That's kind of the problem with I mean, everyone has a screening of mechanical unit requirement. But it gets really difficult in existing buildings because you're making it bulkier. If we were building this building outright, we would have parapets that would screen it anyway. Yeah.
So with this, is this attached to the unit itself?
So the aftermarket products that attach to the units, they're probably for this size of unit, what we've heard from our mechanical engineers, they're way more expensive. If you can get them for this size of a unit. So basically they would be post puncturing through the roof, tied to the structure and flash. So.
All right, thank you.
Any comments?
I'm curious, that air conditioning system has been there a long time. How many years on top of the church?
Oh, I'm not sure how old that.
Late
is.
seven-
It's the
late-
80s, I think.
Late seventies, early.
Probably since 76.
It's a modern building. I may be out of line, but to me, going to that much effort for a modern building and that much expense, I'm uncomfortable with that.
If I can throw my 2 cents worth in, this is a neighbor of mine. I've looked at the existing units since the building was built and have never been offended by them. So
You really,
I'll make a motion to accept it without
Screening.
the framing.
yeah, as long as you can dull down the metal or whatever, so
If there are any options with that, I mean, I used to work at Sherwin-Williams, so I don't recommend painting our rooftop equipment, but yeah, I mean, we can look at options.
no, but I mean,
It's gonna be great.
Oh, yeah, no, it's gonna be great.
and it'll gradually weather.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, when you put the screening up, does that cut down on the sound?
No, I mean, not that I would be aware of. If
Mhm.
it did, it would be really negligible. These units are typically on isolation bearings anyway, so the vibrations that they cause. And this is also a makeup air unit for the kitchen hood. It's not running except for really when the hood's running. It's just to replace all the air that's being sucked out by the kitchen hood.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
And it won't be a full running commercial kitchen, so it won't be running as much as a restaurant or something.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Nancy made the motion to approve, so we
Okay,
just
a
need a
second.
second.
I'll second.
Take a vote. Philip,
what was the, you didn't hear this? What is the motion?
would you restate your motion, please?
Yes, I would approve this project without the necessity of putting up the screening on the top of the building.
Yeah, so you-
Okay.
Nancy, Jane,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Tim,
I'm actually gonna vote no. I know this is gonna pass and that's okay. It's okay, but personally, I'm a screen kind of guy.
Beth,
Yeah.
and yes.
Thank y'all.
Good luck,
I'll
guys.
send y'all the certificate of approval tomorrow.
Good luck, guys.
we have anyone here from 306 West Richardson to present? So no. So board members, you do have the option to discuss and review the project if you'd like, or you can defer it to the next meeting.
Can you kind of explain?
Yeah. Sure. So 306 West Richardson Avenue is a vacant lot. The owners have proposed to put 2 duplex buildings on the lot. The proposal does not meet the buffer requirements. So if we're looking at this, if you're facing the lot, the right-hand side, that property is zoned residentially, not neighborhood mixed use, whereas all of the other surrounding lots are neighborhood mixed use. So this NMX doesn't have setback requirements, but rather buffer requirements for adjacent lots. So because this lot here is a general residential lot, there's a 15-foot buffer that needs to be kept empty along this property line. So you can think of it like a setback. But with this, because it is in the BAR's purview, they cannot go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to get a variance to that buffer. It would be your purview to grant them that buffer encroachment. Other than that, this hasn't gone through the full permitting process, obviously. So they'll have to, figure out the engineering of the lot and get an official survey, because at this time,
Can
There
you
you-
show us the site plan?
they're just using an existing survey with an overlay on it, so. And so the buffer I was talking about would be on this side, this property line here. And let's zoom in so we can see it. So these, I believe, are supposed to represent the stairs that come out. And they're, that's really tiny. 5 feet 8 inches, 5 feet 7 inches with this landing that comes off the second story. And then the building itself looks like about 9 feet. They don't have it called out up front here. I don't believe it's the exact same dimension, but it's probably close.
Where is the 15-foot line on that site plan?
So I did ask for them to provide an exhibit showing the encroachment they were asking for, but this is how they interpreted that. So 15 feet would probably be, well, probably right in here. So the building itself, the stairs, all cannot encroach within that 15-foot buffer unless the board were to approve that.
Personally, since they're not here, I would say we just pass on this and.
We can't ask them questions.
Right.
Mhm.
So all I would need is a motion and a second to defer. And then you guys would vote and
Can I ask a question before we go there?
Yeah.
I was wondering if they were here, would we be just approving that buffer? The acceptance of that buffer or design? of the
they did
building,
apply for final.
The first and final.
So
So we would.
the
be-
architectural stuff that they presented would not fly as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would agree with David. That's-
That's not my only problem. So as we wait for them to come back,
Or I guess we could vote to say no.
There's a number of things you could do. You could say no to the buffer requirement. That would require them to figure out a different design for the lot. They would go back to the technical review committee, which is basically all of the different departments involved in development, engineering, stormwater, the fire marshal, building department, and our department, planning and zoning. And they would have to come up with a different design if they couldn't meet that buffer requirement. Or you could just make a motion to defer it until next month.
I don't know about my fellow board members. Personally, I'm opposed to the design, but also am opposed to voting on something they aren't here to represent. So I don't wanna.
I agree. Me too.
Somebody else say something?
Are we open to comment?
That's up to you. If you guys want to take public comment, you can. You just need to step up to the mic so we can hear you.
My name is Gary Brewer. I live on Laurel Street, right behind that. Years ago, a bunch of apartments all of a sudden appeared before the bar was even existing. We don't need the apartments. We certainly don't need any duplexes. That's supposed to be a historical area. And it seems to me that this will certainly take away from the historical district. It will certainly, it's too small of a lot to put duplexes in to begin with. I was faced with a situation across the street from us several months ago. And if I was told correctly at that time, take so many square feet in a lot before you can even put a building up. And I don't think that lot will come close to being able to have 2 duplexes put there. And again, I'm totally against it. I've got several neighbors around because nobody's ever approached us about it at all. And there's several neighbors that I've got that are totally against it also. And I just wanted to make sure that y'all heard our feelings on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Tom Haskell. I'm on 213 South. Just want to say that I agree with everything that Gary Brewer said about this lot. And the same thing, the same problems we had several months ago with the lot across the street of when it was subdivided and put 2 homes on it as well. This is a whole lot smaller lot. That's what they would want to do across the street. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Board members, just so you're aware, the limit, impervious limit for this lot is much higher than what the general residential would be.
Uh,
Hi. Okay.
I'm Hayward Hudson. And I own the adjacent property at 304 West Richardson and 200 South Pine Street. And I would like to add my voice in opposition to the plans that have been presented to the BAR. I echo the comments that the board members have made already, but it's a very narrow lot. It's deep, but very narrow, and you'd have to build something more like Charleston single house, where you have a narrow frontage on Richardson Avenue and make the long portion deeper into the lot. But it takes some unique and special vision to build something on that lot. And it's now a very expensive piece of property. So I can appreciate the owner's problem. But it needs to be what is built there. If anything is built there, it should be probably a single residential dwelling that is consistent with all the other properties surrounding it. And I do think that you would be in agreement with me that that area along Richardson Avenue is very important to preserving the historic district, because the historic district is being challenged in a big way. And we seem to be moving in the right direction, where we're looking closely at the projects and approving projects that will keep the historic district intact. And that's what you're all about. And as president of Preservation Society, that's what we want to see. And I say that apart from being a property owner and vested in this issue. But I have tried my best as a property owner and a resident of that area goes back 80 years. And I've tried to see it maintained as an important part of the historic district. And we've got a lot of good going on in Somerville and in the historic district. I've never seen it so vibrant and alive, and people interested in maintaining their property. It all looks good, so we have to be careful.
Okay, thank you.
So the applicant is here, so I'd ask that we hold public comments and allow him to present before we continue public comments. No, sir, the applicant is here. And then we'll resume public comment after we've had time to discuss the project.
I got stuck in a bit of a traffic problem and I emailed, but there wasn't any way to call.
I think your microphone's not on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I got stuck in a traffic situation and I tried to email. There was no way to call, so I had to hoof it. Can you, real quickly, can you go to the page that shows the elevation of the property? I think the front page has a three-dimensional representation of the houses. Yeah, right there. So at the behest of the bar, we made a number of adjustments on these houses to change the exterior architecture to make them look exactly like some properties in the downtown Charleston area. Now we realize downtown Somerville isn't downtown Charleston, but we think in terms of historic, there are row houses to be found pretty much all over the state. And so our intention here is recreating identically the historic look. And that's something I just want to make sure that the community and you guys understand. It's our objective to stay within that historic. Because quite frankly, I represent the owners of the property. We know where we're at. A house that doesn't fit the footprint of Somerville, specifically the historic district, isn't going to do any good financially for us. Like, we don't want something that looks awful, because then everyone will just hate it. So everyone stands to do better from a financial standpoint if we create something that historically fits the footprint. I mean, not to sound selfish, but it's true. People who want to live here want that history. And so we've tried to make it our goal to match that. So I just want to make sure that that's understood. As far as the buffer goes, we're in it a couple of feet for sure. We could shift a little bit and get ourselves out of it, but we were trying to leave a little bit larger drive between the houses so that we could have a little bit just smoother flow. You can sort of see that. And those are Lincoln Town cars that I've put in the drawing to give you a representation of size. We realize that on this particular side of Richardson, there's not as much multifamily. On the other side of Richardson, there's several multi-unit properties. We think we've taken a very tasteful approach to it, and it's a challenging lot, to say the least. We'll have stormwater issues and tree issues and all sorts of fun things to sort out. But I think we've given something that kind of is a happy medium.
I've lived in a duplex in the historic district, and it wasn't a Victorian thing at all, but it was a cottage type. And it fit with the rest of the buildings and homes on West 5th North Street.
Yeah.
But this design doesn't look anything like our downtown. It might have fit in some places in Charleston, but in my opinion, that design does not fit here. And not only does the design not fit, but that darn, the buffer is way too close. I mean, there isn't enough buffer to the side, in my opinion. So y'all can
So
discount or disagree or whatever.
you've got the scroll, right?
You can tell me which page.
I
you
believe
want
we
to see.
attached photos of like almost every house on the block. I think Mindy sent those over from my office. So architecturally speaking, there is no consistency on Richardson Avenue.
Doesn't have to be.
That's right, but you're saying that it does. You're suggesting that my architectural style isn't consistent with Somerville. Somerville's architectural style isn't consistent with Somerville. Every house is sort of a unique piece to the tapestry of this town. There's houses that were built in the 50s, the 40s, 80s. None of them really looks alike on that block. So we can't match the architectural style of the block. There really isn't.
To me, it just looks utilitarian, and these other houses don't look utilitarian to me. That's just my opinion. I'm not speaking for the board.
I think that, I mean, I'm open to any questions you have. I think I've told you what we've got to tell you.
Well, you hear me now? Okay, or-
I just don't know if it'll pick it up on the
Gotcha.
recording.
Okay. I'd have to agree that I don't care for the architectural design. It seems like the massing is way too big for the lot. It's too much crammed on there. The setbacks aren't appropriate. And it's not that I'm opposed to the single house on the front, but it's the depth and the size and the elevations of the other three sides that I'm so opposed to. And it's the spider stair coming off of the back of the building that I'm completely opposed to. So there's multiple problems with the project other than just the front elevation, which in particular the front elevation, I'm not necessarily opposed to, but all the other ones I would have a problem. And I don't have enough to say, well, tweak this or that, and it would be okay. To me, it's a whole massing thing isn't appropriate for that size lot in the historic district.
Beth,
I will agree with Tim. I think it's just the way the site plan is, it looks like you're just trying to get as much as you could on that piece of property. And I think that's the way it's going to come off, looking from the road. And that's not Somerville. Somerville it has lots of woods and foliage and
space.
that type of thing. And this just doesn't have that, our Somerville historic charm. And I am opposed to the buffer.
okay,
I would agree. Would like to see what you would have alternatively.
Yeah, I mean, I can take it to the folks that I represent. I know that the density issue was important because of the expense of the lot. Going to be challenging for the property to be something that they can financially reconcile. If we can't get it corrected out. I think it's going to be the challenge with this lot for any person who buys it, any person that tries to get involved with it, is the expectations of the town are going to make it extremely expensive to build anything there. But obviously we have to listen to your comments on it, so we don't have anything to do but offer up what the best we have is.
Well,
There was one more person that wanted to comment, I
Yeah,
think.
Sure, sure. So if there are any other public
wait
comments.
until the board finishes our
Oh,
comments.
I thought you were
excuse
done.
me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Philip, you have any?
One of my big concerns on it is the fact that there's no interior stairwell to get to the second floor in the houses. It's an exterior stairwell, and knowing the weather that we have around here, it's gonna be very difficult to get up to the second floor sometimes. You know, that design is more like South Florida.
I understand. There's this house is almost an exact copy of something that's on Cumming Street downtown. And that particular design, the exterior stairway to the second floor is be 500-600 of them in downtown Charleston, but obviously not that many in Somerville.
I'm just not real happy with the massing on that lot. I think it looks very crowded. And besides, if we were to entertain, if everything else were perfect and we were to entertain a vote on the project, I'm not happy with the detailing in the architectural renderings. I would think that they needed to be a lot more precise than they are. But I'm not in favor of the project as presented, nor the buffer.
Can I go ahead and make a motion that we deny the application?
I'll second.
Yeah, we just defer it and let him take it back, look at it.
Denying it means they wouldn't be able to resubmit the same design. Deferring it would allow them to submit the same design.
I mean,
I-
it seems like this design's not going to fly. with
Yeah,
it.
that's why I think it's a deny,
So-
because this has got to be a
So
different
it's a
design.
density issue. I want to just be clear because if we go through the trouble of redesigning, I don't want to waste people's time and money.
Sure.
It's the density issue then, the multi-units, the height, all of that. You're looking really for just one structure on this site. That's what I'm getting the feel of. Is that an accurate assessment?
Hmm.
I would,
I mean, it's
for
a
me, it is, yes.
It's a historic district. It's not a, yeah.
No, I mean, I think I just need to give the honest assessment to the people that I
Sure. I
work
understand.
for.
It's your
I
work
just wanna
for.
Make sure that I have as good an understanding.
I
as possible.
understand. I mean, just for me personally, it's the buffers. It's the size of the two buildings crammed together on this lot with no green space around them. So I don't see how you could get that much massing on a lot that small in the current design.
Yeah, I mean, we can move things together and meet the minimum requirements of egresses and drives and I can get that 15-foot buffer put on the side. But if that was out of the question, if the buffer wasn't in this conversation, it doesn't sound like we would be approved either way. It sounds like the buffer is one thing, but in terms of the density and the size and shape of the building seems to be more of the opposition than the buffer. Am I correct in that understanding?
You're correct on both parts for me.
Me too.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not being argumentative. It's just
No, I
important
understand.
that we
No,
have
it's-
something reasonable.
And
Okay,
attention to
appreciate
the
it.
architectural elements that go into
Right.
the,
Well, we could have probably put 20 more pages with cross sections and eve details, but it wouldn't have made any difference for this meeting and
We
it would
don't-
cost the clients a lot more money.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
correct.
don't need interior design details. We're looking
No, no.
for
No.
And I
exterior
think ultimately
details.
this meeting was about truly understanding where you as a town stood with the two structures as they are in the lot. So even if I had these structures modified and neat and gave you a million extra details, it's still the two structures
Right.
density.
It's the
the way that the
massing
lot
and
is.
the
Yeah, and that-
site light and the site placement.
Yeah, so that's what I need to take back to
Okay.
the clients. That's what I want to clarify. So we would have given you more, but I believe that that's what I thought coming into this meeting was where this was potentially going to go. And it's important that I don't bill $30,000 in architectural fees
Right.
Yes,
just to hit a wall.
I understand. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, thank you for your understanding.
Mhm.
All right, so I think we have a motion and a second.
Mhm. To deny.
Philip,
Bogward.
what?
I
Nancy
agree.
Jean?
I agree to
Jane?
deny.
Yes.
Yes.
Tim? Yes.
All right. Good luck. Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, next project is 201 Central Avenue.
I don't see Mike here or the homeowner. Okay. So again, you have the option to defer, or you can discuss.
Let's defer it quickly before
Yeah.
we get into another line.
A
Just
lot
need
in
a-
that
a-
one.
Just need a motion.
I'd make a motion that we defer until the applicant is present.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Us.
All yeses. Okay.
And I'm the presenter for this one.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
So I'll try and make this quick. The town of Somerville acquired 333 Old Postern Road. And has submitted it for a request to add the property to the town of Somerville's historic district. There are 11 criteria, which I have listed on the staff report here. The property only needs to meet one of the following. In my personal opinion, evaluating this, it met multiple of the requirements except for 11. It's not on the National Register. That specific parcel is not. And for those who are unfamiliar with where this is, this is the Woodlands property up here. And then there is a barn structure and what I would call maybe a caretaker's quarters cottage. It is in the process of being rezoned, so it would be rezoned to GR2, which is residential. It does not allow commercial use. And I have pictures, though I'm sure you're all very familiar with the structures.
What's the status of the property that the Woodlands mansion is on?
I am not involved with that process
So
currently.
it's not in the historic district.
Right. I do not know if council plans on submitting a request or the town itself submitting a request.
Okay, so how much property outside of the Woodlands Resort, what's left of the Woodlands Resort does the town own? So basically how much property remains of the Woodlands Resort?
I believe the town still owns the portion pictured in green here, a darker green here.
And so the Woodlands is below the property that they're
Is it the
seeking
yellow?
to
Is that
add.
the yellow area?
No, the light green, I think. Move your
Yeah.
cursor down.
Down here,
Right
yeah, it's
there.
here.
Okay, I got you.
That's,
the piece of property we're talking about?
no,
No.
we're talking,
The yellow with the
Here.
cross hatching.
And how many acres is that?
It is 1.16.
Well, okay.
So we're just voting to bring this piece of property into.
So
our
that
purview.
was my next thing. Thank you, Tim. So right now, you wouldn't be voting to bring it in or out. You'd be giving a recommendation to council.
Okay.
At the next council meeting, they would hear your recommendation or not recommendation. And it would have to go before first and second reading.
Okay.
Before it would be passed.
I hear a motion or discussion.
I'll make a motion that
I think we have a question.
Sure.
My name is Lynn Myers and this is my wife Brenda, and we're on the contract. And I'm not opposed to going to the historic district, but and this is probably not the time to bring this up, but I do want to say, you mentioned this is a caretaker's cottage. I think it was a hunting lodge at one time.
I have not been inside.
And so if you've never been inside, you're going to realize that it's not a home. It's really not a home. It's a 1-bedroom home and not modern in many, many respects. My wife's, none of her shoes will fit in the closets in this place is what I'm telling you. So
Are you Chelsea's parents?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
That tells you anything. So the bottom line is, all I want to say is we're not opposed to going in the historic district, but I just ask as we work with you guys, because I'm assuming you're going to probably going to move into the historic district with this, that we need to modernize this place so my wife and I can live in it. As it sits right now, there's no way we can live in this house. It's gone. We won't buy it. In other words, we're going to buy it, but we'll have to get rid of it. We just couldn't live in it the way it is. And I don't think any modern family could live in it the way it is right now. So it's a 1-bedroom house with a barn, and that's really what it is. And so it's 1,560 square feet, I think it is. So we're moving from 4,000 square feet to this, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to go smaller, and because we're getting older, we don't need that big space anymore. But all I'm saying is, when we come back to you guys, we plan to do everything you ask us to do, but we do need a closet. That's really what we need. And then we plan to also enclose some of the porches to make the house a livable space. But we're going to do everything you ask us to do. I just wanted to say hello to you guys, introduce ourselves to you guys, and kind of go from there. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Thank you.
You're
very
not going to erase it from the face of the earth.
much. We're going
You're going to redo it.
We're going to make this place so beautiful. You'll be glad you sold it
Great.
to us. That's
Yeah.
all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say. Okay.
That would be exactly what we would want.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we would recommend to the town that it would become part of the historic district.
Second,
All in favor or any comments?
yes.
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 Yes. Everybody
Okay.
said yes.
All right, folks, that's all I have for you tonight. So if there's no questions for me, we can get a motion to adjourn in a second and get on out of here.
I hear a motion.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Amen.